Hey Eugene, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that you're here with me and Destino. I really wanted to talk to you about the work that you've done as a writer. Would you be able to tell me your name and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Eugene Garcia-Cross, and I am a co-producer on season 2 of Happy's Place at NBC.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, I'm going to start you off for the first time. I'm going to do a rapid fire. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
excited for this.
So, if you were to write and produce a feature with unlimited budget, what type of movie would it be?
That's a great question, man. I'm gonna go comedy just because I'm a fan of the form and that's what I write for TV. But I'm gonna say action comedy because I like those
I
a
love
good
that. Yeah.
buddy action comedy.
I miss those.
I know, right?
I got another one. So, when you were growing up and you were younger, which TV character did you relate to the most?
Oh my God. I'm not even gonna lie. The first name that comes into my mind is Urkel from Family Matters.
Yeah.
And if you saw pictures of me between the ages of 8 and 14, and probably a lot more, you would understand why. I just loved him. He was so iconic. I mean, you gotta love a good catchphrase. So did I do that? Was Urkel's, and I actually got the chance to work with him when I was a writer's PA on
Oh, wow.
Myself and I at CBS, and he was great. He was great. The actor.
And he stole the show, Urkel.
Yeah, always, every time.
And I would want you to name a movie that you would watch in order to inspire you to write when you need it.
Oh man, that's a great question too. I'm gonna say if it's a drama, I
Yeah.
love Cool Hand Luke with Paul Newman. It's just
Yeah.
one of my
It's a great one.
favorites. If it's a comedy slash drama, Big with Tom Hanks, I love.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's something more recent, I think Parasite as a drama is fantastic. I love Us. I love Bridesmaids is a
Yeah.
masterpiece. So I could go on. I'll stop myself.
Well, I brought you on here because I really wanted to pick your brain and talk about what it's like for you to be a writer on Happy's Place. So, would you be able to tell us what it's like for you specifically to be in the writer's room?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say, unabashedly, it is for in my humble opinion, it's the
Yeah.
best job in the world. I mean, a lot of people say that, but being a comedy writer, a working comedy writer out in LA is a dream. I mean, you're with funny people, you're with smart people, you're
Yeah.
breaking story, and you're telling jokes and you're beating jokes and you're looking for the unexpected. And for me, all those things challenge you. And at the same time, you're hanging out with people that inspire you and make you a better version of the writer you aspire to be.
Right.
And I love that. I love it. And also, we have an incredible cast. We have Reba McEntire is our number one, and she is a delight. There's another writer in the room who says, what I always tell people about Reba is she's
Yeah.
exactly what you would expect her to be. She's sweet,
Exactly.
funny, hardworking, and genuine,
Yes.
which to me means a lot. I'm not from LA, I'm not from this world, and so finding actors that really just inspire you and also are genuine, kind people, it means a lot. It means a lot. So I love it here.
Yeah, and we were talking about earlier the story of how you got staffed on this show. So, are you able to tell us a little bit about what you did for the first season and how you were able to freelance an episode for that season?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I feel very fortunate to be here. I mean, obviously Hollywood goes through changes and right now jobs are at a premium and even though there's a lot of TV on TV, there could always be more. And I have
Yeah,
friends who I my peers, my heroes, my mentors who deserve to be in rooms and there's not a lot of rooms right now. So
yeah,
I feel very blessed, very grateful every day coming in here and telling jokes and telling stories. For me in particular, this one was really, really fortuitous in the sense that I wasn't on season one. Um,
hmm,
and there was an original 13 episode order, I believe, and then Happy's Place got a back five, and they were
yeah,
looking for writers to pitch freelance ideas. And so I workshopped, I had a few ideas and talked to friends and worked with friends trying to come up with something solid. came in, pitched an idea to the EPs, the executive producers that they liked,
Yeah.
and that changed a ton. But that's the nature of television. And it made me nervous because I knew that hopefully, if it went well, maybe there would be a spot for me in season two. And my episode in particular in season one, it's called Whiskey Business,
Right. Yeah.
changed a lot. It just, we had to rewrite it. We were looking for character motivation. The turns changed. Um, and I thought, uh-oh, this wasn't exactly the easiest episode of television to make. So
Right.
maybe that'll be a strike against me. But, my boss, Kevin Abbott, Matt Berry, all the EPs were so kind and so encouraging, and they liked the finished product, and we got along well. So in season two, when Happy's got picked up, I
Yeah.
knew there was a possibility if there was if there weren't budget constraints that maybe they could bring in some new people to the room. And
Right.
so those 2 or 3 weeks when you're like checking your phone every 5 seconds, like, did I miss a text? Did I miss a call? And I remember I was at a book fair at a conference down at the LA Convention Center, and I got a
Yeah.
call from my management team, and they were like, I think they're gonna have room for you. And it was, I mean,
That's awesome.
goes down as one of the greatest days of my life. I mean, really, really, it was incredible.
Yeah, no, I totally connected with you right away because I was able to see the process and hear from you in person of what it was like for that episode. What was it? What was the biggest takeaway for you and writing Whiskey Business?
Oh, wow. I mean, to be honest, my biggest takeaway from my time here during season one,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, I'm not trying to pander, I'm being 100% honest, is that I had worked on other multicams, had really good experiences, but I had never worked on a show that ran so smoothly.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, to do a lot of pre-tapes on Monday and get a lot of really good footage in the can, and then to be out there Tuesday night for show night and
Yeah.
realize, we need 6 or 7 scenes, and we're going to get them all. And it's just like clockwork. I mean, to keep the audience engaged and also just the people you're working with. I remember you were designing incredible labels for the whiskey bottles we were using.
Yeah.
The art department was, building a swing set, which is a set that you don't use week to week for this auction house.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guest cast. I mean, every aspect of it, except for the fact that the story kept changing, everything felt like it was just clicking on all levels.
Right.
And I've worked on shows where, you might be taping for 6 or 7 hours. And I remember we were done in just over two. And I'm like, this is incredible. I mean, there's, everything we have, we can use, and we can get it together in editing in a way that's really going to please the viewer. And it felt like I was stepping into a well-oiled machine. And my goal was add to that and don't mess anything up.
No, I mean, to add to what you're saying is that I've heard this same reaction from a lot of pros that are on the show with us that they say the exact same thing that this is one of the best shows they've ever been on, and it definitely feels like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a pleasure every day. And you realize, I mean, a lot of my bosses go back, 35, 40 years. They've worked together, I mean, or 30 years. They've worked together since Roseanne or Grace Under Fire or
Yeah,
Malibu Country or the original Reba. And so they have such a good ear for the characters' voices. They have such a good knack for really satisfying storytelling. And it's been a pleasure. And you realize that, yeah, it's these people are bringing the experience.
yeah. Well, now that you were in season two, what is one of the things that you like to bring to the table in the writers' room?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love blue skying at the beginning of the season, which is when you're just trying to think of general ideas for episodes or character arcs, something you might see develop over the course of the season. And
Yeah,
I love story, but I also love punch up, when we're writing jokes, trying to bring something unexpected to the scene. I love pitching jokes on the floor. We don't do a ton of it, but we do some, and it's always a pleasure because I think the audience is excited to hear different setups and punchlines, and
right. Yeah,
that's been a lot of fun. And I think hopefully, I don't know, maybe I don't always bring it, but I hope I do, is the enthusiasm for the job. And I mean, it's
yeah,
just like, that idea of like no bad days, and I'm sure I have them, but it's like I remind myself I had a previous career. Hollywood is my second career, and I loved what I did for the first part of my first 10 years of my professional life. But I
yeah.
remind myself that like there's a huge part of me that never believed I would be out in LA writing comedy for the people that I've looked up to for years and enjoyed on screen for years. So I try to never forget to pinch myself
Yeah,
about
no, there's a
here.
saying that I learned when I was younger, and somebody told me that, hey, uh we don't have to do this job, but we get to do this job. And
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
one thing that I always remember when I go through the gates at Universal, at Warner Brothers. It's like,
Oh.
damn, I get to do this every day.
Yes, absolutely. There's never a day. Sometimes I'll be on the 405. I live on the west side. I'll be driving into Burbank, and sometimes I'm like, I'm a working screenwriter in Hollywood. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
write jokes today, and hopefully I'm gonna pitch something that I get to see on screen by an actor that I really admire and respect,
Yeah.
and also knowing your place. I mean, I never performed. I was never a stand-up. I never did improv. I always liked
Yeah.
being behind the camera. So recognizing the talent that a really funny person has to take a joke that you wrote and pitch it and let you see it on its feet, like that leaves me in awe because it's such a skill. It's such a skill.
Yeah, and well, one of the things that I saw early on in this season was that you got to write another episode, episode 5 for Happy's Place. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, that was a blast. It was my episode deals with the character of Steve, who's the accountant for Happy's Place. And, one of the things that when you're interviewing for shows or you're trying to get hired on a show is what do you have in character with the characters, or what similarities do you have? What expertise or wisdom or life experiences can you bring to those storylines?
Right.
And Steve
Great.
has OCD, and I have OCD. I have my whole life, and certain mannerisms, certain things that really I felt like I related to in that character of Steve. And I enjoyed the way that storyline developed over the first season. It felt very honest to me, and it wasn't, didn't never felt like the showrunners and the writers were taking an easy way out. So coming into season 2, I was particularly interested in that character and his development in the show. And
Yeah.
so we were talking about him having interests outside of the bar. And we pitched this idea that he decides to audition for a commercial, and he fails.
Yeah.
And failure is something that I've also had a lot of experience with. And so trying to find the bright side, trying not to use failure as an excuse to quit trying, became the sort of nexus of that episode. And it became a fun one to write because he pivots from an interest in acting to an interest in directing.
Yeah.
So he realizes that, there's that old saying, which is like, you fail once, you fail twice, keep failing, but fail better. Just keep getting better, keep finding your way. And so it was a fun one to work on.
Yeah, it's true. And it's a lot of ways what I've heard over and over from other professionals as well, that they gone into this industry thinking they wanted one thing, and through just experience and being on set, they end up where they are now. And it's just by trial and error.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have, I mean, growing up in Western Pennsylvania, my mom's from Puerto Rico, my dad's from Western PA, and I grew up in my dad's hometown.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody who worked in Hollywood or anybody who wrote for TV or the movies or did anything in this industry.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of shocks when you finally make it out here. And I think the biggest one for me, or one of them, was just how many people are involved with the production, how many jobs it provides, how many, people's livelihoods, depend on this industry. And it's like you said, there's graphic design, there's costume, there's production, there's art, there's catering, there's hair, there's the writers, the actors, the stand-ins. There's so
Yeah.
many people who have TV and Hollywood to thank for a career. And so for me, it was great to be living that.
You told me a story earlier, and I think it would really benefit those young people that want to be a writer. What was it like to do interview via Zoom for the show Lopez versus Lopez?
Yeah, I mean, that was a great experience in that, I did not get an offer on that show. And that's, I think, the bigger lesson, and the one I'm still trying to learn in my career, is that like those opportunities, you can prep and do your best, and you
Yeah,
might not get an offer, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that something's not going to come along. Um,
right.
and I think for me, it's just being prepared. I had worked with an actor on that show, Al Madrigal's his assistant. I was familiar
Yeah,
with the original George Lopez show. I had, studied that pilot and brought things to it that I hoped I could talk about in the interview and was able to. And so that was good. And I mean, even interviewing over Zoom for any position can be tricky, but my first interview was in 2016. I was interviewing from Pennsylvania. I was visiting my family, and I
Yeah.
got an offer to be the writer's PA on an ABC sitcom called Downward Dog. And I'll never forget like being
Yeah.
like, the show was set in Pittsburgh. I had lived in Pittsburgh for 7 years. I was like, I can, bring that experience. And getting hired on a Friday and having to be in LA Sunday and driving cross country in two
Wow.
days. I mean, insanity when I think back on it now. Getting here with no place to stay, getting
Yeah.
a hotel room on Lancashire, realizing I had to be at Disney first thing in the morning, getting to the writer's room, not really knowing my role. And then the showrunner at one point saying, I think, we should get some coffee. And I'm thinking, yeah, coffee sounds good. And then the list finally landed in my lap. And I'm like, oh, this is what I do. I get coffee and being thrilled to do it
Yeah.
because a what's what's a better place than to start than on the bottom, right? Like you're learning the job, you're being around funny
Exactly.
people, and b just like so grateful to be close to the writers room and hear how they talked about story and jokes
Right.
and character and really being grateful for every second of that and meeting a lot of mentors in the process.
Yeah, for me, when I was an assistant, one of the things that I really enjoyed was I was on The Big Bang Theory, and I just like to be a fly on the wall and
Yeah,
just to listen to all the writing team, to watch the acting happen, the rehearsals, and
yeah,
just to enjoy the time there of not really having major responsibility on the production side, and to be able to take all that in, and also
absolutely.
to be able to see where you can get involved the most.
Totally. You're totally right. Like that was the nice part about it too, is the stakes were somewhat low, but
Yeah.
I was like, I will always, have lunch here on time. I won't mess up
Yes.
anybody's order. I will, try to foresee people's needs and be there, one step ahead. But at the same time, the show's not resting on my shoulders. And so I had the opportunity to learn and soak it up and meet people that are still instrumental to me now as friends or mentors, So that was really there's those assistant positions, those support staff positions could not be more important in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wanted to hear your beginnings because you told me earlier that there was a few organizations that were very pivotal to your journey. So are you able to talk about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm, from Western PA, went to school in Pittsburgh, and I studied fiction writing. And so for the first 10 years of my career, I did a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. For the first 10 years of my career, I was an English professor. I taught creative writing at Penn State, University of Chicago, Northwestern, a bunch of places, and wrote a couple books. And I thought that was going to be my career. But I had always loved comedy, and we were living in New York, and my wife was like, why don't you take a shot on it? And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, there's no way, but okay. So the semester ended and I was teaching at like 5 places, adjuncting, and I locked myself in the apartment and wrote an original pilot and a spec script of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And I applied to all these fellowships. So most of the network studios have fellowships for diversity writers, Latino writers, writers of color. And then so I sent them out to ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and Warner Brothers. Didn't get in anywhere, but then I sent it to the National Hispanic Media Coalition. They have a TV writers program, and
Great.
yeah, it was amazing because off the slush pile, the guy who ran the program said, "Yeah, come out in 4 or 5 weeks and you can write a new pilot." So I flew out. They put me up in Toluca Lake at the apartments out here, and I wrote in a pilot in 4 or 5 weeks. Went back to New York, and I was thinking, oh well, that was that,
That was that.
that was that. I gave it a shot, and then came back out in spring of 2016, did another program, but kept thinking the same thing. Like, I don't know how I'm going to parlay this into a career.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate and met a friend who was a showrunner's assistant, and he put me up for that writer's PA job that I told you about. And that was my first job out here. And it really, I think anybody who moves to LA with the dream of being in TV and movies is brave and a lot braver than me because I
Yeah.
did it a little later in life and I had a wife and it wasn't quite so scary as it can be. But I think having a job made it easier. If I had moved out without anything, I would have been petrified.
Right.
But people do it every day, and they make it big. So it's you never know until you take a shot, right?
It's true, and it was one of those things that we were talking about that, you have to get used to the no's because those are going to come, but don't let that get you down and take it personal because it just meant that it was not meant for you at that time, but you just take that experience with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yours, I mean, yours is a great example. You were talking earlier about how you started on Mike and Molly and Big Bang, and then you met those actors, and they were really influential to you, and also very
Yeah,
encouraging. And I think that that's the best this industry has is that those people who are really high up, who you would
right.
never anticipate, this guy's going to help me out, or this person's going to sort of encourage me in some way. When they do, it
It's
really
true.
means a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I wanted to develop early on was just to have like some kind of community and mentorship
Yeah.
to be able to turn to somebody because I was so young and so new to the industry
Yeah.
that obviously I would feel lost a lot of the times. And these people are the ones that I would turn to whenever I wasn't sure of what my next step was supposed to be or how to lock in my next project. But at least I would always keep them updated on what I was doing if it wasn't graphic designing, I was writing my own comic. I
Yes.
was
Incredible.
working on freelance stuff, but I always made sure that they always knew what I was up to, just so that they knew I was active.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important part of it too. I see that poster behind you, Vallero. I love it, man. And that's, dude, it's so true. It's like it's not just doing the due diligence of writing and continuing to write and continuing to produce material, but it's also putting yourself out there and
Yeah,
emailing people and my first job came from a mutual a friend that I met with before I was even, in the NBC writers program, which I did later. And it's just letting people know, hey, I'm still out here touching base. And dude, I still do that with my mentors. And so I try
right.
to be really cognizant about it with my mentees, like, make sure you give back. And what you're doing here with Destino is so important because it really is. People are looking for a lifeline, they're looking for a
Yeah,
pipeline into the industry, and they don't have. That was the most frustrating thing about TV writing is there was no set path. It
right.
wasn't like you go to school, you get a job, it can be so mesmerizing about how to get into the business, how to get your foot in the door. So really like organizations like yours mean the world because you're hearing how other people did it?
Yeah, and that's one thing that I keep hearing over and over that everybody has like a different way that they were able to land this writing job, for example. Some people start out as stand-ups, like you said. Other people start as a PA,
Mhm.
and there's no a real like set
Yeah.
steps to
No
get.
blueprint. Yeah.
Nope.
And it can be tough. That can be tough, but it also makes it so much better when you finally break through because you're like, I did something that's very hard to do?
Yeah, well, that was one of the intention here was because I know when I was younger, working in Hollywood was so distant to me that I didn't even know where to start. So
Yeah.
the only thing that I could come up with was put myself in that environment and then I'll figure it out somehow.
That's
So
it.
yeah, that I took up catering just to be a fly on the wall, like I said earlier, just to understand all the roles. And I would always talk to the electricians, to the grips, transpo
Yeah.
whatever it was, just to kind of get an idea of what everybody brings to the table.
Absolutely. And all those job, like every one of those roles is so pivotal to the show. And
Yeah,
you again, like you're saying, grips and electric and the best boy and transpo, like, casting every step of it. And you wouldn't realize it till you're in it. But then you
right.
also realize, wow, there's a lot of places for me to land if I have a skill set and a work ethic and an interest in this industry.
Yeah, and to stay interested and curious about what everybody does because you never know. Like I said, when I started and a few other people that I've interviewed said the same thing. We didn't know where we fit in this world
Yeah.
of TV and film. So it was not until you actually get to get your feet wet and you're able to actually see how it's done in person because it's totally different from watching it on TV at home to when
Mhm.
you step into a sound stage. Like I'll never forget that feeling.
Absolutely. It makes a big difference. Yeah. And you see how the sausage is made. It's
Right.
exciting stuff.
Well, now that you're in Happy's Place, how do you compare the work that is done here to your previous show, The Santa Clauses on Disney Plus?
Yeah, I mean, that was a great experience too. So The Santa Clauses was a spin-off of the movie The Santa Claus with Tim Allen,
Yeah.
which was a holiday classic. I don't know if people have seen, I'm sure a lot
Yeah,
of people
yeah.
have seen it. Yeah. So my boss there, Jack Burdett, who was fantastic, there was a lot of crossover between the writers on Happy's Place and the writers at the Santa Clauses, at least in the sense that Jack Burdett and Kevin Abbott and Matt Berry and Pat Bullard and so many others had worked on Last Man Standing with Tim Allen.
Right.
And so a lot of people, Kevin Hench, a lot of people knew each other. But the show itself was different in that it was a single cam. We did a lot fewer episodes. I believe our first season, we had an 8 episode order and they cut it to 6 just to condense the storytelling. And single cam, which was the Santa Clauses, is a lot different in that you're not filming in front of an audience.
Right.
The shoots are longer. Here we shoot pre-tapes on a Monday, and then Tuesday night, we'll shoot in front of a live audience. And there's such an aspect of it that's electric. You feel like you're putting on a play for a live
Yeah.
studio audience. And it was also like, something as a fan of multicams growing up from Cheers to Frasier to, so many others, Friends, like hearing them say taped in front of a live studio audience, like you
Yeah.
never know what that means until you get out, or you know what it means, but it's different when you're
When
standing
you're
there seeing
there.
them. Yeah. So the Santa Clauses was a single cam, and we filmed at Fox over on the West Side. And it's different, big sound stages, a lot of shooting on location, which means you're not on sound stages, but you're out, at the Disney, ranch or different places where we would set up, swing sets, different sets that we needed.
Right.
Um, and so it was a lot less of like it's show night and a lot more of like, how do we make this story better and how do we set that up with our shoots? And they're just different animals. Multicam tends to be a lot more joke heavy a lot of the time, which I love because that's what I
Yeah.
grew up with. And so, yeah, I mean, I enjoy both, and to get the experience on both I feel very fortunate because you learn a lot. You learn a lot, and they're different animals. They're not done the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you guys decide on how the stories are going to go on a show like The Santa Claus?
Yeah, so for that one, the Santa Clauses, we did a lot of writing in the room, a lot less. So here at Multicam, what happens sometimes is your back's up against the wall and you need to, write a script. And so you'll divvy up scenes and we'll write it as a room. We'll go
Yeah.
to our offices. At the Santa Clauses, because pre-production is way before, you start shooting, we had 10 weeks to break story, tell an arc. And then and then we would go off and write the scripts ourselves. So I would write for a week, or I'd write with a co-writer for a week or 2 weeks. And then we would come back and the stories inevitably change. But for that, multicam, Happy's has a lot of serialized elements, the relationship between Bobby and Emmett, so many other things that are happening in the show. But in a single cam, you really have a season arc. We had
Yeah.
in season 2 of the Santa Clauses, we have our bad guy who pops up in episode 1. We have our escalation in 2 and 3. We have our climax in 5 and then 6, the big battle. And multicam, you should and likely have episodes that stand alone and that you can shift the order of. Single cam, it's not that way because you're
Right.
storytelling from one to the next. So that was something that was a change, and something to keep track of for me.
Well, for you personally, what do you do whenever you have like a writer's block situation?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, that's tough because writer's block, it's like if that's that old, those old things like if you're waiting for the muse, you're going to be waiting a long time. Writers write, there's so many. As a writer, you hear a million of these. Writing isn't hard. You just stare at the blank page until the drops of blood form on your forehead. There is no writing, there's only rewriting. I mean, everybody has their thing about it. But I think to your question, the important thing for a writer to remember is sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's hard. And it's a lot harder for me to generate new material than it is to revise written material. So powering through, realizing it's not supposed to be easy, realizing that no writing is wasted, because even if it doesn't make it in the final script, it's helping
Yeah.
you get to the next draft. It's helping you fix a problem in the story,
Right.
and forcing yourself to do it. I mean, deadlines are writers love and hate deadlines, right? Because you hate to worry about missing it, but it also keeps you accountable. And so when I face writer's block, which is often, I mean, maybe I always have writer's block because it's never been easy for me ever, ever. And some writers are like, I love writing and stuff, and I love aspects of it. I love when I'm
Yeah,
in it, but it can be hard. It can be
right.
very hard because you want it to be good. And I think that's another thing that is a truth for a lot of writers is that the further you get in your career, sometimes the harder aspects of it become because you know what you want it to be. Whereas when you're young and green and just so full of energy and you just I would just spill out stories that maybe were messes, but I didn't have that the sort of barometer of what I was aiming for. So
Well, for those people that have an end goal of being a TV writer, what's something that you suggest that they get practice doing, or what types of jobs do you recommend they look for?
yeah, that's a great question. I think number one, watch TV. I have a lot of friends who are like, I'm thinking about being a
Check.
writer. Yeah, yeah, right. And I have a lot of friends who are, I'm thinking about being a TV writer or I like comedy. And I'll be like, have you seen this? No. Have you seen this? No. Have you seen this? Try and stay current. Try and see what the trends are. I mean, not that
Yeah,
that's end all, but if you love a form, you'll watch that form. You'll go to movies, watch TV.
yeah,
And then I think structure. I think it's super helpful to watch a show that you like, watch the pilot of a show that you like, the first episode, and then go back and try and break it down. See what each scene, what comprises each scene, and what is the purpose of each scene, right?
yeah,
So why is it there? What's it doing? Because then I think you start to understand A stories, B stories, three-act structure, act breaks, what keeps people coming back. So that's very helpful. And then this has sort of gone by the wayside. But when I started in the business and you were applying to the fellowships, ABC, NBC, CBS, Warner Brothers, Fox, National Hispanic Media Coalition, people would sometimes submit an original pilot. So the original first episode of a show that you came up with. And I think that's very, very helpful. And I think it really helps, especially further down the line. It helps you to generate new material. And that's how TV shows are made. People sell
yeah,
ideas for pilots and they write them and they shoot them. But I do think when I started, you would write a spec script. So a script of an existing show. And while you can't sell those and you can't go to a showrunner and say, I have this spec script, do you think it's a good idea because there's a conflict of interests? I do think it's a good way to learn the form. It's easier to write into an established world. So I've written spec scripts of Scrubs, of Dr. Ken, One Day at a Time, The Carmichael Show, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I mean, tons of, because you're learning the form. And
yeah,
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? You're learning the form, you're learning jokes, and sometimes that'll help you when you then get to the next piece of the puzzle, which is okay, now I know how the structure is made of the building, of the
yeah.
script, but now I'm going to make it mine, my own characters, my own conflict, my own world. So those are all helpful. Oh, and then in terms of jobs, I think the closer it's exactly what you said about being the fly on the wall. The closer you can get to it, the better. So production assistant jobs. During COVID, there was COVID PAs, writers PAs, catering, transpo, anything you can do, unpaid intern. I mean, I know that sucks and I've been there too, but anything you can do to get close to it, because that's
Right.
where you meet the people who will teach you and help you, and that's where you learn how the thing is done.
I agree with all that. Yeah, it's definitely the one of the biggest steps is just to get yourself on set somehow.
Yeah, set 100%, 100%. Get yourself on set, and I mean, you were doing it on Mike and Molly, and going in through catering is a great way because everybody loves to eat and everybody wants
You
to.
know what? Everybody wanted to talk about their weekend and grab breakfast, and it was just, I met so many friends that are like friends of mine now since then.
Yeah.
And we connected over talking about baseball, talking about like the movie of the week or whatever it was. And it was just I just asked them questions about their work, just like I'm asking you, just because I was always just interested to know.
Absolutely. And if you love it, if you love TV, if you love movies, if you love storytelling and comedy or drama or whatever it is, whatever genre you want to get into, and
Yeah,
you get on set, there are no bad jobs. I mean, there's tough jobs, but there's no bad jobs because
right.
you are part of it. And I felt that way as a writer's PA. I knew best case scenario, the sitcoms I was on might go 10 years. And so I would have to climb the ladder from writer's PA to writer's assistant to script coordinator to staff writer.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking 3 or 4 years down the road, but I'm a lot closer to it being on a show being on
Yes.
set than I am sitting at home thinking, you know, that that I'm not close to it. I'm just
Right.
watching the finished product. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's all great information. Thanks for sharing all that.
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate your time and everything you got to tell us about your journey and the work that you're doing on Happy's Place.
Dude, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And dude, thank you again for this organization. Destino is fantastic. You guys are really bringing a lot of awareness to the industry and helping people who otherwise wouldn't know how to get a foot in the door, get that foot in the
Yeah.
door. So you're doing God's work, man. It's great stuff.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
See you soon, buddy.